This video, we're going to talk about a common problem with a toilet. Let's say your toilet doesn't shut off. There's a problem with the fill valve in the tank, or the flapper seeping water, so it does a lot of phantom flushes. And you need to shut the water supply off to the toilet. If you have a valve that's like this is an old school gate valve essentially, but you twist it clockwise to shut it off. Now, the problem with what you'll find with these, you shut this off and there's two things that can happen. One, chances are, if this has been installed for quite a while, and in older homes, this is usually what they have, water will seep past the valve and go ahead and continue to run into the tank. Now, this wouldn't be a huge problem other than if you had a problem with the gasket that is between the tank and the bowl. If that becomes deteriorated and dried out, you can essentially start getting a leak that shows up in this area right here. And it could leak around the back side or the other side, but you'll get water that'll drip over the top of the bowl here and run out on the floor. Regardless of what the situation is, if you need to shut the water supply off, this valve really needs to be changed out. And not only do they seep water past the valve after you shut them off, after you finish the repair, when you turn this back on, almost always, they'll start to leak around this stem right here. Now, there is a packing nut on here that sometimes can be tightened, but I never work on a toilet and leave this type of valve in. I always replace this with a quarter turn valve and then put a stainless steel braided hose on it that goes up to the tank. So we're going to discuss taking this off and cleaning this up and replacing it, in this case, with a new compression style fitting that's a quarter turn shut off. So I'm going to get started on it and I'll be right back. Okay, I've shut the water off to the house, the main water supply. I opened up a faucet. This is on the second floor, which is even better. So I opened the faucet up in the bathroom here on the second floor, opened up one on the first floor, and that allows the top floor to drain down. If you are doing a bathroom that's located on the same floor as the faucets, you may have some more water that's going to come out once you do these, disconnect these connections. So I've connected the supply line from the fill valve on the tank, and I've already loosened this compression fitting and removed it. So we're going to pull this really, really poor product, this plastic supply line, out of here. And now that I've got that out and out of the way, we're going to place an adjustable jaw wrench on here, on the flats of the valve, and another one on the nut for the compression fitting that goes over the 1/2-inch pipe. Pull the valve off. Now, if you're going back with another compression fitting, you actually can reuse this part and leave the brass ferrule ring on there. I want to go ahead and replace this. I prefer to do that. And in some cases, I like to use the press-on shark bite fitting. So this is a 1/2-inch to 3/8 press to fit, and then a compression, 3/8 compression on this end. In this case, I'm going to probably go back with this compression fitting. Shark Bite makes these too. I really like this brand. and not all quarter turn valves are created equally. The cheap ones don't have a steel or stainless steel ball valve inside of them. Sometimes they're plastic, and those are not good. So you want to make sure that you get a high quality quarter turn valve that actually has a stainless steel ball valve. Sometimes you can put a pair of pliers on this brass ferrule and twist it back and forth while you're using your other hand to pull on the back side of it to try to twist it and get it slowly to work its way off. If this was over tightened, if the compression fitting was over tightened right here, it'll distort the pipe. So this doesn't always want to come off. I've had to actually take a small hacksaw and cut this brass ferrule until I got down close to the copper, and then used a screwdriver and a hammer to go ahead and knock that off the rest of the way. You don't want to damage the copper pipe. So if you have to cut it, you've got to be really careful with what you're doing. It's not an easy task to do. But I bought this tool that I carry. This is a compression fitting removal tool. So you slide this on here and then tighten this onto the brass part of this tool. On the inside, you can see that it's got a 1/2 inch sleeve that goes inside of the pipe. That keeps the pipe from getting damaged. And so you're going to back this part all the way out until this is almost even with this flange. And then we're going to screw this on here, and then we'll pull the compression valve out. So let me get it ready. Heck of a time getting the ferrule off, even with the puller tool. And you can see that once you remove this ferrule, I've polished this pipe now with emery cloth. But you can see where the ferrule actually distorted the pipe. So this was probably tightened down far too tight at one point, and it distorted the pipe. And so we need to cut off this pipe back behind this line. We don't want this distortion on here, and I am going to use a press to fit quarter turn shark bite instead of a compression on this. It's just going to work way better, and it's quicker. So I have a lot of faith in these. I've put hundreds of these in, and I've never had any leaks from any of them. So I'm going to cut the pipe. We'll come right back. So the pipe's cut, I repolished it, and then I also took emery cloth and I cleaned this burr on the outside of the pipe off. You want to kind of chamfer the outside of that pipe with emery cloth before you use your shark bite fitting. I also cleaned the burr out of the inside of the pipe, and I just use a knife for that. I just gently go around and kind of scrape the inside of that burr off. The idea here is that you don't want to damage the shark bite fitting because it's got rubber O-ring in it. These do come with silicone on them. I always put a little bit of silicone grease on the pipe. That does two things. It helps in the installation of the fitting, and it also helps with sealing it on the O-ring. Even though there's some in there, I usually use a little bit more. Now in this case, in the people that roughed in this particular house, they looks like they busted a hole through the sheetrock instead of cutting it. So this is something I'm going to repair. But I'm going to reuse this. But I don't have a lot of clearance. Luckily, I have enough pipe here to do what I need to do. Otherwise, I'd have to put a coupler on there. And that would take a lot more time. So I have enough pipe here after I cut it. So I'm going to go ahead and insert the shark bite fitting. And I've made a mark back here to the 1 inch. You have to have a 1 inch insertion depth. And when you push this on, you can actually feel it bottom out. So okay, the stainless steel braided toilet supply line is now hooked up. You do not need Teflon tape on this connection. You just tighten this. These braided hoses have a rubber washer inside, and the type of compression fitting it is does not require Teflon tape. In fact, it's not even recommended that you should do that. So I've got this hooked up. My water's on. I checked for leaks before I put this back on to make sure I had no drips around the seal back here. And it's all good. I've never had one drip back there. And now, what's very important anytime you do any plumbing is you flush the line. So before I hook this up to the tank, I'm going to turn this quarter turn valve on, and I'm going to flush the line out for about 15 to 30 seconds. And in this case, I probably don't need to do it that long because nothing would have dropped inside the pipe. But I'm going to put a towel over this bucket because when I turn this on full blast, eventually it's going to come out like gangbusters and it's just going to get you wet and make a big mess. So I put a towel over this. I'll flush the line real quick. This is why you flush the line. You see all that sediment that got washed out of there. Now I'm going to dump that and I'm going to do another one because there is a lot of stuff in there. But that's why you flush it. If you don't flush it, especially on a toilet, it's bad enough on a faucet in your lavatory or kitchen sink faucet. You want to flush those also before you hook the supply lines up. It's very important. But here, it's extra important because all that stuff will get in your flush valve and it will cause a problem. I've seen them where the flush valve won't even allow water to enter the tank. It gets so clogged with junk. So I'm going to dump that and run another one. Okay, this is the old, the new. This, when you hook this up, you hand tighten this. Don't go crazy with it. And also, when you tighten this compression fitting, this 3/8 compression fitting on the valve side, you snug that up. Don't over tighten it. If you over tighten it, you can damage it. It will leak. So you snug it up with a wrench. Just don't get aggressive with it. The water has been turned on. I go ahead and turn the supply on. And then check for leaks by feeling all around. You may feel some moisture on the hose, sometimes from condensation. That's not a leak. So I always dry this off real good and then check it. Try to feel for any moisture. Everything's solid, everything looks good. I got a little hole to patch. So, the other thing I wanted to mention, if you did go back with a 1/2 inch compression style fitting like this, that's when I do use some thread compound on it. This is pipe thread sealant, and it's got Teflon tape strands in it. It's a good product. It's kind of a mess to deal with, but it's a very good product. But you don't need this on this compression connection here because it's got rubber, nor do you need anything like that up here. Same thing. It's got a rubber connection inside to seal it. So that's it. Everything looks good. And I hope it was informative. And this is a brand new channel I'm doing, so if you have any comments, as long as they're good ones, everything's welcome. Thanks for watching. Bye.